All right, welcome back, everybody. The elections are underway in the copper-rich Zambia as of the 20th of January 2015. After the late Michael Sata passed on last year, the dynamics of the political spectrum began to change. African politics researcher and journalist Kate Stegeman is in studio with us to talk to us about this. You also know our journalist, our contributing editor, Vuyamvoko, is in the country. Good to have you. Welcome to the program, Kate.
Thank you.
All right, so what does the Zambian political spectrum resemble at the moment?
Well, we need to look back a couple of months because it's been a bit complicated. Basically, out of the 11 candidates we have running in the election, which is great, it's a good number, it's healthy for democracy, we kind of have three forerunners. First of all, in Sata's party, which is the Patriotic Front, we saw a succession battle. So we saw a fight between which candidate was going to run, and eventually they went to court, and we now have Lunga running for that seat. But considering the succession battle and considering the fact that they had to go to court, that isn't necessarily within the government party's best interest, but he offers stability and continuity, and that's what the electorate often like, especially after they're quite sad for losing Sata. Then in the second party, or the main opposition party, the MMD, we have Mumba. And again, they had a succession battle within their party. So we've seen quite a lot of infighting in both the government incoming candidate and within the main opposition. And then just to throw a spanner in the works, we also have a third candidate, Hichilema, popularly known as HH, who is basically come third in the last few elections that have been contested, but his popularity seems to be growing. Then on top of that, to complicate matters even further, we've had cross-party endorsements. So I just mentioned that we, in the MMD, the opposition party, we saw a little bit of a tussle for a leadership and we saw a court battle. Then what happened was Banda, who was the other candidate who was running to represent the party, then turned around and said, you know what, I'm actually going to endorse the government party candidate. And then there have also been a whole lot of cabinet ministers within government, within the PF party, the Patriotic Front, who have turned around and said, actually, we like Hichilema as a candidate. So it's been absolutely fascinating.
Yeah,
I mean, it's
can imagine.
Messy, but good.
Okay, so, I mean, there is so much to get into, and never mind that, it was the run-up to this, and Zambia having an interim white president and everybody making international news headlines. But let's push that to the side right now, and let's kind of get to the grit of this. The competition is very stiff, but for you, the front runners, who are we looking at?
It seems a lot of people would have touted the government candidate, and the fact that the former opposition leader who was vying for the opposition has endorsed him means that in some ways we could say that Lunga has a good chance. I mean, he's Sata's successor. But interestingly, you mentioned the white president, Guy Scott. In this internal battle within their party, he didn't support him. And that's not necessarily a good sign. Mumba, who's the leader of opposition, also seems to have lost popularity just by the fact that Banda supported the government candidate. But it seems that, interestingly, although he dropped in the last polls, Hichilema is definitely growing in popularity. He's been campaigning hard in PF areas. He's very flashy. He's a businessman, but he speaks sort of popular rhetoric. So he speaks about lowering the cost of living, and he arrives with his helicopter. He's well liked. Zambian press in particular seem to be saying that he's a strong candidate. He's also pushing for reforming the constitution, which is always a good sort of electoral issue, and mainly tapping into what Zambians want in terms of dropping the fuel price, addressing inequality and that sort of thing. He speaks a lot of the right language. So in some ways he was seen as an outlier or an outsider, and now it looks like he might be sort of vying for the position. So it'll be very interesting to see what happens tomorrow.
It certainly will. I wish I could keep you here and just continue to talk about this, but I unfortunately have to wrap it because we're going into the news at 7, but we will be crossing to Vuyamvoko, who is there. He's in Zambia ahead of tomorrow's election. Kate Stegeman, thank you so much for just giving us a little bit of background as to the candidates and the current situation that politically is, I suppose, taking Zambia right now into these elections. Let's take